So as I've spent a little bit of time working on these brackets, I've developed a different way of doing a few different things. Just because the way I was doing it initially, I didn't think it was all that great. So I did some measurements, and the plans here have the brackets to scale. They're not necessarily to the thousandth of an inch, but the measurements are specified in fractions: 3/16, 4 3/4, 2 inches, 3/4, which tells you that precision isn't critical. You don't have to use a milling machine like I was talking about wanting to do. So what I'm doing now, I'm just overlaying one of the pieces. Later I'll stack them, drill them all, and put the roll pins in like I showed you before. But to do the markings initially, I just line the piece up as closely as I can with the drawing. And what you need to do, look at the drawing ahead of time, find out, see where the holes are, make sure that the lines that specify the holes extend out outside the part. In not all cases do they do that, in which case I just use a ruler and a pencil and extend those lines out. And then line the piece up as well as you can. And then I take the Scribe. I just picked up this guy. It's a Starrett or Starrett, and it was like $10. Not bad at all. It's pretty cool. It comes in the package with the tip like this, so you don't stab yourself. You just take that out, put it in there, tighten that back down, and it works great. So let's start out. I'll line up the ruler on this vertical line first. There'll be one hole here and one here along this line. So I'll line up the ruler, make sure you don't bump your piece. I'll line up the ruler and I'll scribe only a small mark here where it intersects with this line, because I want to make a little X at each line, or at each hole. So apply good pressure, get a good line. Here's another one right here. Alright, so I've got 2 marks, there and there. Now I'll go ahead and line up on this top line and make my cross line there, and make them as small as you can. They need to be big enough so that when you draw the cross line, you've got an intersection, so you need to be able to kind of project it. If you can project accurately along a line, then you don't need to make it too long. Like this one, I think I'm close. So when I do this cross line, it just needs to be, there needs to be some overlap, if that makes any sense. So this line, I'll come down right there, make a short line. Alright. Right, so that line, I made it short, but I was pretty sure that there'd be enough that when I did the cross line, I would have put this first line in the correct location so that the second line overlaps it. Alright. And there's one hole in the middle here. Just making the ruler perfectly parallel with that line on the paper. The cross line is right here. I'll come down. And you could always extend this line a little bit longer if you needed to come back and do it. So try not to make super long lines because you're afraid you might miss. You can come back and extend it a little bit after the fact if you wanted to. And obviously the second line never needs to be super long because you know exactly where it needs to be. Alright. Actually, what let's do draw this line. I've already got the center line. Cross that. There'll be a hole here. Draw a line there. And one more over here. There we go. So I've got very clear marks. Before, when I was using the marker, that would wear off, or if the plastic starts coming off, then you lose those marks. You'll never lose these. They'll stay put until you drill the holes. And then you can use some light sandpaper to clean up any marks that maybe are outside the hole. Ideally, the marks will disappear when you drill, but if there's a little bit left, make sure to sand that off, so you don't have a stress riser that you've created a place where stress focuses and eventually it cracks. So get rid of your score mark. Now what I'll do, I've got a magnifying hood, and I'll show you this in a video coming up here. I've got a magnifying hood. I'll put that on, I'll get really close to the piece so I can see precisely. I'll use a punch, and I can pretty accurately put it right where the two lines cross and whack it with a hammer. And then I've got a little crater there that makes it super easy to drill right down, right through where those two score marks cross. So far, I've done it on a few pieces, and it seems to work really well. So at this point, that's how I'll finish up all the pieces, all the brackets, and I recommend that you try it out.